Okay, my argument is, or my leader, my bad leader, is Woman X. Woman X is the woman that Brian Clark and his co-workers met in the stairwell on the way down. Woman X was on her way up with a fragile man. Brian Clark, I will show you a video of him in a second. He'll explain who Woman X is. But it's my belief that she is the bad leader because Brian was coming down with workers from his office. Brian was a fire marshal. He was also the executive vice president of the bond company, and he was the leader that day. He had 6 men from his office following him. When they got down to the 3 levels below and met this woman, somehow this woman got 5 of those men that were following Brian to follow her to the roof instead. So instead of going down and out to safety, they went up into the roof with her. She, I believe, caused a situation, brought in some scenarios, and convinced or manipulated the 5 followers that followed Brian to switch from Brian to her, and she is my bad leader. So let me show you Brian's video of the woman, and then we'll go from there.
We started down stairway A. Between each floor, the stair would go this way and that way, that way, all the way down the building. As we went down only 3 floors, we got to the 81st floor landing, and as I went around that corner with this group of people following me in a single file, a heavy-set woman emerged from below, and she stopped me on that landing, and she refused to let me go by. She said, "You can't go down, you can't go down, there's flames. She referred to a small, by comparison, gentleman she was coming up the stairs with. We just come off a floor in flames and there's smoke and you've got to go higher." And she just was absolutely insistent that we not go by her. And of course everybody went bump, bump, bump in behind me, and now we've got this group of 9 people on this landing on the 81st floor. And people started to debate up, down, what should we do? And I'm sort of...
It's at that point where I believe she created a second situation. The first situation was 9/11, the plane. The second situation that brought out the second leader and a new group of followers was her saying that it was impassable going down below. I believe that her weight, the fact that she was having difficulty getting up, and that she did not have enough help helping her, other than that frail man. I think she realized she needed more help and she needed to recruit followers, and I believe she recruited 5 of Brian's followers. And she did that by saying that there was a fire down below. That stopped them there. Then they thought about it. Well, we can't get down. What are the options? It was at that point where I guess you could say that's at the point where she created the situation. But this is also the point of the stairs where they were, you could say, the forming, the storming, the norming, and the performing, where they argued about what needed to go on. It seemed like she was the insistent one, though. She was voicing what was going on, even though none of the other men actually went down to take a look to see if there really was a problem down below. They just listened to her instead. Those 5 men followed her up instead of down. When Brian went off to save that man in the office, when he came back out, everybody was gone and headed up. Bobby Cole, Kevin York, David Vera, Michael Stable, and Brett Bailey all went up with this woman. Now, they didn't need to go up. 2 of them could have helped that woman up. The rest could have went down. They could have argued with her. They could have went on their own. They didn't all need to go up, which tells me that she was the leader. She created the situation. She recruited these 5 guys. They got her to the roof, and I believe she used manipulation to get her to the roof. I don't believe she could have made it up there by herself, and that's why she lured them into. She created a situation of fear, manipulation, and whatever else she could do to get those men to help her up. Even Brian said she was a heavy-set woman. She was laboring to get up, moving very slow. She screamed, "You can't get down, you can't get down," which caused the situation. She mentioned that there was too much smoke and flame, and she also mentioned a positive reinforcer, which was called fresh air. She said there was fresh air on the roof, which I believe was a positive manipulation, and all the 5 men took that into consideration. Her argument, they took into consideration, believed that she was correct, and followed her to the roof. And As we all know, they did not make it out of the building alive, but Brian, the man he saved, did. And that's why I think she is the bad leader. Thank you.
I will be analyzing our good leader, Brian Clark. Brian Clark was one of 4 people in the South Tower to escape from above the plane's impact. His escape was possible because the tilt of the airplane narrowly missed staircase A, located on the left-hand side, which is where Brian and Woman X encountered each other. As Paul stated earlier, Brian was going down the staircase to escape, while Woman X was going up. An interesting aspect of Paul's and my presentation is that both Brian and Woman X are ordinary people put in the same crisis situation. However, their motives, ethical positions, and priorities were at opposite ends of the leadership spectrum. I categorize Brian Clark as a good leader because when faced with a crisis situation, he was calm, drew upon necessary bases of power, and most importantly, put other people's lives before his own. Brian Clark used his expert power as a fire marshal, the legitimate power presented by the crisis situation, and the referent power he had accrued with his coworkers to influence and effectively lead his group until he came in contact with Woman X. During his argument with Woman X in staircase A, Brian hears a
tap, 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 bang, 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 help, this small voice, but pleading voice in the darkness on the 81st floor, calling for help. Help, help, I'm buried, I can't breathe, is anyone there? Help me. And I grab a coworker of mine who was on the floor, had come down the stairs with me, Ron DiFrancesco. I grabbed Ron by the shirt sleeve, and I said, come on, Ron, we got to get this. I started to remove debris, and this person was very excited the other side, saying, oh, I've been saved, oh, thank God you found me, and it was very emotional and excited.
The man in distress who Brian saved was named Stanley Premnath. Brian's instinctive reaction to help Stanley is a great example of socialized power. On page 135 of the leadership textbook, socialized power is defined as an individual's service of higher goals to others or organizations and often involves self-sacrificing towards those ends. Additionally, socialized power involves an empowering style of leadership. Essentially, Brian's high levels of socialized power enabled him to put another person's life before his own. Brian Clark, Stanley Premnath, Ron DiFrancesco, and one other individual were the only survivors above the South Tower's impact zone. Brian's selfless decision saved Stanley's life, which in return makes Brian not only a good leader, but also a hero.